Well, he finally got his cake. Hey, welcome to my video, where today I'm going to show you my first edition hardcover Stephen King library. Let's go take a look. Follow me. Alright, so here we are in my living room. As you can see, this is where I store this sweet ass collection. So I have them all in chronological order. The majority of them are wrapped in these, protective covers, which is kind of nice. It's acid free to help keep the book preserved. And again, these are all first editions. So what that means in layman's terms is, this book, for example, is probably one of my favorite #1 books by Stephen King, It. So it's a first edition. So in 1986, this book was released. And this book itself is from 1986. So it's that old. So it's like 34 years old. I've got two different variants here of the Tommyknockers. Two different color schemes on that. You can see one is in gold and the other one's in red. I'm trying not to knock Pennywise over here. This was made by a friend of mine. If you like it, look her up. I've also got the two variants of the book Insomnia. Basically what they did was they switched the color scheme around altogether. I think I've counted about maybe 61 of his novels here. The only ones that I'm really missing are some of the oldest ones, and they're fairly expensive. They're not cheap to acquire these days, especially if you're after first edition. Salem's Lot. That's one that I would like to get, but yeah, they're out there. They cost a lot of money. They're like $800 US upwards. So for now, I'm satisfied with what I have. The rarest of all the collection is probably this this paperback novel here called Rage, and this came out in I think 1977, and I keep it wrapped in this acid-free book cover to help protect it. This is in pretty good condition. There was just a fold in the cover here, so there's a small crease. But this was the only book that Stephen King himself took out of print. This is the only Stephen King novel nowadays that you can't find. It came out by itself as a paperback book, which is what I have, and then it was released later in a collection of stories with oh, forgive me, I should know this. The Bachman books, because again he wrote this under a pseudonym, Richard Bachman. Yeah, so it was released later in the Bachman books, and nowadays when you purchase the Bachman books, Rage is not with it. So again, it's been taken out of print due to its content, which was basically a high school kid taking his class hostage and ultimately murdering people in the school. So I think it was a wise choice on Stephen King's part to take this out of print. But I have it, and it's probably the rarest in all of the collection. These are not easy to come by. I also have The Shining. The Shining right here. That's for first edition. That one's pretty rare as well. Yeah, that one wasn't cheap, folks. So yeah, it is probably my number one. It's my favorite novel by Stephen King. Down here I have a few copies of it. Some that were released in recent years due to the movies, the new movies that came out. It Chapter 1 and 2. So yeah, I have all these different covers. I have these different covers of the novel, different variants. I'm also very proud to have the first edition signet paperback of it. Again, with the protective cover on it to help make it last even longer than it has. If I had to rate any of his books, of course, like I said before, my number one would be It. I think it was a long read. It's definitely not a small book, but by far it was the best story. The only thing I found hard to read about it was some of the characters and their treatment of animals. I found that very hard to read because I'm a dog lover, and some of the characters in the book, like, they really mistreat animals, and I'm not down with that at all. Number two would have to be The Shining. I think The Shining was probably the only book that I've read by him that like truly struck fear in me. I got this really nice slipcover for it. This is of course aftermarket. This didn't come with the book originally, back in 76 or 77, whenever this came out. But yeah, first edition in fantastic shape. This is my number two favorite. If I had to pick number three, I'm just going to say my top three here today. Misery might have been my introduction to Stephen King. Misery came out in about 1987. And I didn't hear tell of it until, of course, when the movie came out in 1990. So when I saw the movie, that was pretty much my introduction to Stephen King. And I believe that same year was when the It miniseries aired on television. And I remember being in school and some kid in my class saying, "Hey, have you seen this TV show about the killer clown?" And I'm thinking, "What? Killer clown? What's that? That sounds cool." So yeah, I immediately had to check it out. And of course, once I started reading his books, I had to read them all. So, which I pretty much have. I have read all of his books up until maybe, oh wow, I think I stopped at, I can't say I stopped at a specific one because yeah, I've read randomly books here and there. I can't say I read all of these, and when I do read my Stephen King books, I don't read these. As you can see, I'm wearing white gloves right now. When I want to read any of his books, I pick up some paperbacks. Like I have paperbacks down below here. So if I want to read a book, I'll grab a paperback that I can handle, and I don't really, I don't care too much if a page gets bent or the cover gets, something. I don't know. These remain in pristine condition. They're stored on this IKEA shelf, and that's where they're going to be. I love to look at them in the mornings. I sit over here and I drink my coffee. Wow, this is like an accomplishment for me. Took me a while to acquire all these, and I'm freaking proud of having them. Never touch these. If I handle these, I handle them with gloves, And if I want to read any of his books nowadays, I hit up my paperback collection that I have here, as well as some downstairs. I've also got a Pennywise action figure. Stuck that on the shelf too. Boom, bada bing. I've also got, as you can see, these are It Chapter 2 movie posters that I have hung up here as well. So I think this was the official poster because it has the information and the actors in it. This white one here. And then this would have been the teaser poster over here. This frame sucks. I gotta get this frame replaced. I don't like these flimsy frames, but I mean, I bought them because they were cheap at the time, so. Alright, so as always, if you've enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe if you like. I'm sure I'm gonna be putting out more crazy collection content. So yeah, thanks for watching. Have yourself a great day. Till next time.
There's a bathtub scene in The Shining where I scared myself, and in Pet Sematary, for long periods of time, I just felt very, very wired and very uncomfortable with what I was writing about.
He once described people's love of horror as that feeling of being afraid to put their fingers in the toaster, or somehow a secret fascination with the person who got ground up in an industrial blender, that type of thing, and the penchant to stop and look at accidents. But in your own personal life, are there things that you are actually afraid of? Because you certainly make people afraid of their dogs, their cars, their trucks, their cats.
Well, I'm afraid of trucks and cars. I mean, Maximum Overdrive is about trucks. Christine was about a car that drives by itself. Because as a child, they seem so large and I seem so small, and I had the same imagination then that I do now, except...
What the? Babe! Babe, what is this?
I see that you've been out of your room.
Babe, what is this? Babe, can we talk about this?
Trust me, this is for the best.